You guys all good? Yep. All right, can you hear me okay? Good. All right. Good afternoon. My name is Matt Clark. I'm a commander with the Denver Police Department's Major Crimes Division. I appreciate you being here today and give me an opportunity to provide an overview of the police shooting incident that occurred on Sunday, June 13th, 2021 at about 5:45 p.m. This occurred in northeast Denver in the area of Colfax and Yosemite. This is intended to be a preliminary briefing. It's based upon information that we've gathered after interviewing numerous witnesses, speaking with the involved officers, and analyzing evidence that was collected at two scenes. This investigation is in its early stages, and there may be information I do not have access to or cannot disclose at this point, which may limit my ability to answer some questions. So with that being said, I'll describe the incident. On Sunday, June 13, 2021 at about 5:30 p.m., Denver police officers were called to the area of Colfax Avenue and Ulster Street on a report of an individual firing rounds from a hand. Uniformed patrol officers from District 2 quickly responded to the area, and they were flagged down by the individual who called 911 there. This individual provided a detailed description of the subject and related that after shooting into the vehicle, the subject walked away and was last seen eastbound on Colfax Avenue. Officers located the vehicle the 911 caller described in the 1500 block of Ulster Street, just off of Colfax. While inspecting the vehicle, the officers observed several spent shell casings in the area and damage to the vehicle from apparent gunfire. Several minutes later, uniformed District 2 patrol officers located the subject walking eastbound on Colfax, approaching the area of Yosemite Street. As the officers stopped their vehicles on Colfax, the subject turned around to face them. The officers at that point observed the grip of a black semi-automatic handgun protruding from the subject's waistband. When the officers contacted the subject, he began consuming the contents of a small container of Fireball whiskey, which he had in his hand. The officers communicated with the subject and gave him clear directions in an effort to gain his compliance. Specifically, the officers told the subject to put his hands on his head, and they also directed him not to reach for the handgun that was visible in his waistband. Throughout the interaction with the officers, the subject appeared agitated and was non-compliant. The subject discarded the empty bottle of Fireball whiskey onto the ground before dropping his right hand towards his waistband area near the firearm and also moving his left hand behind his back out of the view from officers. The officers described knowing that the firearm that the subject possessed was functional, and this was based on the subject's recent reported use in the area of Ulster Street. They recognized he was not responding to their direction, and they were concerned he was going to draw and fire the handgun at the officers as he moved his hand towards his waist. In response, 3 Denver police officers discharged their firearms at the subject. He was struck by multiple rounds that were fired and fell to the ground. The officers immediately transitioned and began rendering aid, and this included the application of 2 tourniquets and applying force to the wounds. The subject was transported to an area hospital by ambulance where he was later pronounced deceased. Investigators processed the scene at Colfax and Ulster and located 4 spent .45 caliber shell casings, which were believed to have been fired by the subject's handgun. Additional forensic will be conducted to confirm this. While examining the parked vehicle, detectives located multiple defects resulting from the shots fired by the subject into the vehicle. These included a flat tire and damage to the passenger side of the vehicle. Detectives have determined that the subject was the registered owner of the vehicle that he shot. At the scene near Yosemite, investigators recovered a black .45 caliber H&K semi-automatic handgun. This was the firearm the officers recovered from the subject. It was determined that the 3 Denver officers fired a total of 11 rounds in this incident. As part of the investigation, we've interviewed numerous people and would encourage anyone else with information or video to please contact the Denver Police Department or anonymously through Crime Stoppers. In regards to the subject, he's been identified as 30-year-old Dwayne Manzanares. His birth date is October 26th of 1990. The Denver officers who responded to this incident were all wearing body-worn cameras, and their cameras were activated and captured their interaction with the subject. All the officers were wearing Denver police uniforms and were driving marked Denver police vehicles. The officers who discharged their weapons are patrol officers. They're currently assigned to District 2 in northeast Denver. 2 of the officers have been with the department for 2 years, and the other for 3 years. These 3 officers will be on a modified duty assignment at this point. The investigation of this critical incident is being conducted by the Denver and Aurora Police Departments, as well as the Denver District Attorney's Office. The investigation will be monitored by the Office of the Independent Monitor, which is a civilian entity. Happy to answer any questions I can at this point.
So I'm sure you guys, obviously, you've seen videos that the public has submitted, just as sure as we have maybe the same copies of those videos. There's concern from the people who took these videos and maybe also witnessed the incident that they felt like this man, at the moment that he was about to be shot, he was not in any way reacting in a threatening way. Obviously, this is their perception. The officers have an entirely different perception of the scene. What is kind of your reaction to these concerns that perhaps they feel like he shouldn't have been shot as many times as he was?
Sure. We have seen several videos that were captured by people with cell phones or other types of cameras. The officers' perception, what they knew at the time, was that he had previously a functional firearm that he had discharged minutes earlier at a location several blocks away from the incident. He was non-compliant. He was clearly agitated. He took the bottle that he had in his hand that would have been likely closest to the firearm and cleared his hand of that, and then he moved his hand directly towards that weapon, and that's what the perception of the officers was.
Can you speak to what he would have been charged with if he had complied and all that had happened was he shot the vehicle and was arrested?
That would be an analysis conducted by the district attorney's office because ultimately it was determined it was his vehicle. It is certainly illegal to discharge a firearm in the city and county of Denver, so there would have been consequences. And I don't believe there would have been charges relative to his possession of the firearm as well, I believe.
You kind of touched on this earlier, and again, I don't know how Denver Police has their protocols for how they handle situations, but just speaking on behalf of the people who witnessed this incident, where they felt, was it necessary to have 3 officers fire 11 rounds, in this case, if it's trying to prevent someone from getting to their gun? I guess their concern was like, oh, couldn't you guys have just shot him in the leg or something instead of having to ultimately end up killing him?
So the officer's intention was to stop the threat, to mitigate the threat that that individual posed. The training of police officers is to shoot at the largest part of the body, which is the center area, the center mass of the individual, and that is going to have the most swift, efficient impact on the individual to stop the threat at that point. So trying to hit him in the leg, trying to shoot a hand or something like that is just not feasible when you have a moving target under stress. The officers are trained to shoot at the center.
I know 3 officers have been with the department very long, but have any of them been investigated in similar circumstances like this before, and any prior complaints against them?
So I wouldn't say it's a complaint, but one of the officers was involved in a prior police shooting incident.
Did they discharge their weapon at that time, or were they?
Yes, sir. They did discharge, and it was deemed justified by the Denver District Attorney's Office.
I don't know how much you can say to this, obviously, but I'm assuming the family, based on their social media posts, are very distraught. Have you guys had any sort of communication with them?
Yeah, the family is understandably distraught in these situations. We have had communication with them. I've detectives from the homicide unit. Our victims assistance unit is also working with the family at this point as well.
It's our understanding that he's not from Denver, the man. I believe he's from Pueblo, correct? He was just visiting here or something with the hospital.
My understanding is he is from Pueblo.
Okay.
Are you looking into the gun that he had, whether it was legally purchased or stolen, or how he got it?
Absolutely, we are looking into the gun, how he came into possession of it, and if there's any criminal responsibility relative to that, that would be addressed as part of this investigation as well.
Any indication of what set him off to shoot his own vehicle?
I don't have that information at this point. That's one of the things we are still looking into. We are working with the family to try and get a better understanding of the background and what may have been going on that day in that individual's life.
And I know most of the time this comes from the Office of the Medical Examiner's Office, but do you happen to know what his VAC was at the time?
So toxicology reports, so the quick answer to the question is no, I don't know his toxicology, and toxicology reports take several weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.